Hello everyone, this is CoinTrader96 here from Chart Engineers, and this will be the weekly recap, and I'm going to cover previous week's price action and the trades I took and why I took them and why I avoided some plays as well. So we will be covering Monday 14th of May till Friday 23rd of May, and I'm going to start off of the H12 because this is my time frame for my direction and bias. I usually work with the H12 as my daily time frame because it's a little bit more detailed, and as for recently I've been liking it a lot. So let's see what we got here. Here we got a weekly rate, or H12 rate. That way the MSB here. So rate, let's swing high before the sweep, broke here. So we have H12 fractal basically. I marked out this H12 breaker. I also posted all these things in the group when they occurred. So if you didn't see that, please follow along with the group, so it won't be surprised when I show these things. So rate, market structure break, price pushed up, came into it, and then pushing up. So from this point I was quite bullish entering Monday's trading because I was thinking these highs would get blown out, and there was also a weekly high sitting here, right there. Then price is kind of pushing up and then ranging. So let's go over to Monday's trading real quick. So Monday and Tuesday were a flat day for M5 traders. At least for me it was a flat day, and I think if you were trading off the M1 time frame, you could make a killing on Monday and on Tuesday, but for me there was not much to play because my plays were invalidated before I could enter. So Monday, London open in the red area, 8 a.m. till 11 a.m. Here you can see where the M5 sweep, M5 market structure break to the upside. But then if I zoom in on that, let me go back to Monday. So annoying when this happens. It keeps flicking back, but okay. We can see here where the M5 rate, M1 market structure break, and then this M1 breaker zone was tested and run for 3R plus. As you can see, look. Let me mark out the FIB2 real quick. Where is it? Oh, there. From there to there. So as you can see, this M1 breaker zone was tested and run from for 3R here. So at this point my M1 breaker zone was invalidated before the M5 RTO, so I'm not interested in buying this level anymore usually, unless the context fits. But then I did decide, so annoying when it happened, I did actually decide to long this area if it came back, because H12 was bullish. I mentioned it here because we were coming out of a H12 breaker and H12 market was bullish and we're pushing up. So I was expecting more upside. So I still wanted to take it, but then there was something else that put me off, because here were the H4 high. Here were the H4 high, and price rated the H4 high before coming back. As you can see this right here. Here was a H4 high, and here there was a H4 sweep. So at this point I was like, man, I'm not going to long it anymore because we had a H4 rate, and at that point I don't like to fade H4 sweeps, so I rather stay flat, because if I take an L against the H4 rate I feel very stupid. So here was a H4 sweep here because it closed below, and then it still came back and ran up nicely. And after this reaction of here, I was like, okay, fuck it, I'm going to long if I am getting a setup. But there was no M5 rate at all on this move up, and then pushed up. I think on the M1 there were many setups you could take for longs, but it was a H4 rate. The M1 break zone was tested as well, so at this point I was like, nah, I got two confluence against my trade. H4 rate and M1 break zone was tested, so at this point I was like, nah, I'm going to skip Monday's trading and maybe enter on a reaction in New York, but still nothing. That was Monday's trading, basically quite flat. And on Tuesday, what a very flat Asia, you can see that. And then when an open kicked in, it ran up like 50 pips or something without giving any entries of the M5. I think M1 traders have gotten have got entries, but on the M5 there was nothing, no M5 rates at all. You can see that nothing, no M5 rates, so just nothing basically. A 50 pip move without any entries from me. So London Open was done. And then here we had New York session. Price pushed up, giving no M5 rates, pushing down, basically nothing. And then here there was an M5 fractal, which I skipped myself, and I also mentioned it in the group why I was skipping it in advance. I think some of you took it and took a L on that, because there was actually let's see. So M5 rate, M5 market structure break, and you can see how it pushed up, taking the stops. But I avoided this play because all the way back here, let me mark it out. All the way back here with the weekly high, right? Let me put it on right there. With the weekly high, and on this candle, that was Tuesday. As you can see, this candle was Tuesday right there. So this weekly rate was very shallow. And I mentioned in the group, when I get a shallow weekly rate or a daily rate, there's usually more liquidity above. So it was very shallow, and at that point I was like, I'm not going to sell because they could easily drive price higher to take out the liquidity above, because there was not a lot of resistance to do that. And in the end I avoided the loss here because of that, because I was thinking price could go higher. And that was it basically for Tuesday. That was one setup. It was an L, but I avoided it because of the weekly high and the shadow rate of that. And on an open there was also nothing, just straight push, 50 pips without any entries. So yeah, Monday and Tuesday was flat, and I also updated in the group about this. I think if you followed me, you already know about this. And then Wednesday came through very clean. Wednesday's trading Asia, ranging here, pushing up. So clean London Open manipulation, where I mean like in advance of London Open, they pushed it up. M5 fractal right there, very clean. M5 rate. It was also a potential H4 rate at the same time. Here with the last, let me zoom it in, last swing low before the sweep. It broke here, retest, and it died quite nicely in London Open. And if you can see here, in this level here, this H4 rate was right at this area, and here it closed as a H4 sweep. So price pushed up. So at 7 a.m., 1 hour ahead of London Open, there was a H4 sweep, and then a M5 fractal to set it down. And also the entire structure was quite nice to get in shorts. Accumulation, manipulation, distribution. Let me show real quick what it looks like. Accumulation, manipulation, clean distribution. As you can see, accumulating orders above and below the marketplace. They're rallying it up, basically trapping all the longs, and then they pushed it down real nicely. But the thing was with the setup, the M5 breaker zone was quite big, so I zoomed into the M1. Let me go back. Right there, here it is. So I zoomed into the M1. So as you can see, the breaker zone was quite big, right? Because it was a level, how much pips it was, because I don't take any breaker zones above 10 pips. It was 10.9 pips, so at this point I was like, nah, this is too big. So I was looking for any refinement to get a tighter entry. And then with the M1 fractal within, rate. Here was the MSB right there. So sweep, market structure break, because this was less swing low before the sweep. I marked out this zone here, the breaker zone, and I took a short from here with stops above, and it fell off nicely. I also broke it down live in the group, and it was this trade basically. You can see how I played it. I put it a little lower to adverse spreads, and stops a bit above, and I was quite convinced in this trade, so I did let it run for 5R. and yeah, because of the AMD structure as well, accumulation, manipulation, and I knew when AMD happens, they usually go below the accumulation. So accumulation, manipulation, distribution. So I held it for around here, I think, around 5R, and then I closed it. So that was my first trade with a 5R win. So this was this one on the 19th of May. M5, M5, M1 for 5R. So let's see what we have in New York. I think there was nothing much. I think I called it a day after this win because I did 5R, weekly objective hit basically, and then I think I stopped trading. I don't think there was any setups in London Open or in New York Open, because here there was a nice New York Open pullback, retracement basically, pushing back into this level, into the M5 fractal, and then you could have sold this again because the H4 was still sweeping, you see. Still H4 sweep, and then it came in nicely, pushed down quite hard again. So if you took this again, I think you would have had your TP before session close, something like this, right there, entry here, and then TP was right there at 8 a.m. or 8 p.m. so after session basically. And I think even in this area here there was a setup and raid. This one here, M5 sweep, M5 mark structure break. I think if you took the M5 fractal here, MSB, pullback, RTO, stops above, and I think there was some FOMC news, not FOMC, but some kind of unannounced news came out here, and they pushed it lower. So after session there was a nice short as well, with TP also following the H4 rate we had, so quite a clean PA there, but I didn't take any of this because I took my 5R in London Open, and then I don't really like when price gives a second tap in a level because the level is not untested anymore, and I usually prefer untested levels myself. Okay, so that was Wednesday. Let's go over to Thursday. Yeah, Thursday was quite clean. London Open I had nothing. And the M5 break, no raid. Basically nothing to play. No M5 raids, they pushed it down. A dry London Open session. But then after session we had a nice M5 raid here. Template raid. But I don't think there was any RTO there. But the M5 fractal was created, and usually when price creates an M5 fractal, it's usually bullish sign in this case, and then they push it up. There was a sneaky M5 low here, M5 rated, MSB right there, template MSB bull. Let's swing high before the sweep, break a mark structure here, they push it up, they rated a M5 in here. So at first I was not really sure if this would push up, but then I saw the M5 rate within, and we also had the bullish H12 still, here with a new market structure break, and here with a new breaker mitigation block kind of level, and here you can see how it bounced here, pushed up, bounced again, and I think when this long happened, this push up, it was somewhere around, yeah, it was somewhere around here on this candle here, yeah, on this candle here. It was pushing up basically with the bullish H12 mark structure. So H12 was kind of bullish and aligning with the direction of the trade. And then for this one I zoomed in because with the M5 rate, so I wanted a M5 M1 setup on top of an M5 fractal. So I zoomed in. Yeah, so M5 rate was here, M1 mark structure break there. I used this entire zone, I think. Yeah, I used this zone here, and then I longed in this level here, somewhere like something like this, I think. can see pullback, and they pushed for 3R. See the rejections here. I think that was this trade here. Yeah, and also some engineered liquidity, because you can see they were engineering liquidity right here. See that? A high. They were all unrated as well, so it was quite bait that they would push it up, and a nice TP there. You can see here, I put my limit, and then some drawdown, and they pushed it up for 3R, I think, or 2.5R there. I wanted 3R, but I was quite impatient again, and I closed it manually at around 2.5R. And my initial TP was hit in the end, because I was stupid closing it earlier, but I still did quite well though. So 2.5R there. So that was Thursday, I think. Let me see. Yeah, that was Thursday. And Friday there was some French PMI news release. It's usually some liquidity injections on these events, and some quite clean PA again as well. Let me see here. So here we had a clean M5 raid of Asia higher, because it was Asia. All this PA here was Asia, and then they run it up, break a market structure on the M5, right there. MSB, break a market structure, sweep, let's swing low. They broke it below, and they were grinding in here. They even rated M5 within. Raid. So at this point I was like, okay, there's some news coming out, a clean setup, and I wasn't really afraid of getting swerved on my TP, because it was quite clear that price wanted lower, because this entire structure. There was also some news coming out, so I was like, okay, I'm going to enter inside of this level, stops above. I'm not even going to look for any refinement, because the level, how much pips it was? It was 6.7 pips, so it was quite valid for me. So I put my limit in this level here, and I just waited, because I think it came down first, pushed up again, and was still holding, and then on news release they pushed it down lower. And it was this trade basically, yeah, right here. You see that? Stops above, M5 fractal, and then they pushed it lower. I think I took 2.5R of that one as well. Yeah, 2.5R on that one as well. Some quite clean textbook PA there. And then there was London Open. Some grinding here, again in the level. Outside of session though, M5 raid would in. I think there was a M5 M1 setup for shorts again in this level, but I didn't take it because it was outside of session. I did notice lately that EURUSD is moving quite clean within sessions, so I'm still going to monitor it for now and maybe adjust my trading system a little bit and also take some risks within the sessions, but for now I'm still good with this because I'm only trading London Open and New York Open and still doing decent R, so I'm not really in any rush adjusting my system for now, but maybe I will in the future, but I will let you know if that happens, of course. Oh yeah, and then there was also a scalp short in New York Open on Friday. Okay, let me see. On the H4, there was some. Let me see. Yeah, right there. Here there was a FEG on the H4. I marked it out. I was just looking for confluence in this case. H4 FEG. You can see how it bounced in this level. So it had quite some reaction of that. And then they broke below it. And when this happens, the FEG was kind of flipping as resistance in this case. And you can see how it tapped in. And at that point, yeah, let me sync it real quick. Yeah, here you can see how price broke down, and they tapped into the H4 FEG because it was flipped. You see that here it was also support. Here it was formed, support, pushed up, support, then they broke down, and then it flipped resistance. And at that point, I knew they wanted lower prices in New York, so a continuation of what happened in London, because London pushed it down, they pushed it up a little bit, down, and then here a retest, and then I zoomed into the M1 for this one, and it was quite in a flow state because I was up a lot, and then at that point I can play a bit more aggressively. I hope this is going to load now. And yeah, that was the level basically. RTO in the H4 FVG, they pushed it down, and I was expecting lower prices. And then here was the M1 fractal. So as you may have noticed in the group, when I'm really convinced in a certain direction, I can go to the M1 and play M1 fractals, but I usually just wait for M5 fractals, especially early in the week, because I don't want any losses because of being aggressive. But I was up like, how much R? 5, 2. I was up 10 R, so I was like, okay, I can play with a little bit, because I have a bit of a buffer. M1 mark structure break, they pushed it up, and then I saw this level here again for a nice 3R play. So you can see how it went. Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention, we also had a potential weekly rate. It was also H12 rate, very shallow at first, and also fucked up my buys at the beginning of the week because I was thinking they would push price higher. But then they had a H4 mark structure break to the downside, and then we were inside this H4 breaker zone basically. And if I'm looking now, I forgot to mention there was also a H4 rate within the level. So we pushed down, so at that point I was quite bearish, and then I was looking for confluence to get in shorts. Here were the H4 FVG, so I was like, okay, if they are going to bounce it from here, they could potentially send to the weekly high from this H4 FVG, but it didn't happen because on the next close we closed below. And then I was looking aggressively for shorts in this level again. So it's all for confluence basically. And then here you can see the trade. Here's the H4 FVG, as you can see. M1 fractal, mark structure break, RTO, a nice little wick into it, stops above, and a very quick TP for 3R. So last week's trading out 4 wins for a total of 13R. 5R 2.5, 2.5 is 10, and 3, so 13R and 4 trades. So a quite profitable week for me, and also with a lot of textbook PA, to be honest. And I also stayed very patient because on Monday and Tuesday provided no trades for me on the M5, and then on Wednesday it started to happen finally. Yeah, that was it basically. So yeah, I had one more question from someone in the group. Here I have it. Hey Coin, I have a question. How do you stay sharp, objective, fearless while being in drawdown for the week or day, for example? I find myself often get a fear of missing out after a loss, or not take the wins because I'm afraid of losing again. So psychology barrier. So yeah, I'm going to answer this question now real quick. I think first of all it's quite important to know what you are looking for in terms to results. So I know for myself that I'm getting my 5R per week minimum if I'm staying patient. And I know this for a fact. I tested it, forward testing, back testing. I've seen it every single week. If as long as I'm staying patient in the market and not forcing any trades, I'm getting my 5R. And if that's not happening, I will be getting 2R or 3R, or at least end the week in profit. So yeah, it's quite important to know what you're looking for in terms of results. And if you're not knowing what you're looking for, then I suggest installing Soft4x and go backtest your setup over and over and over again. Get months of data and know what your average risk to reward is every single week, every single month. And this will also tackle the second problem, because he said that he's getting FOMO after a loss and not take the wins because of fear of losing again. You won't be afraid of losing if you know your stats and if you know if you're profitable. And you can only fear something if you're not certain about something, because uncertainty creates fear, in my opinion. And if you're certain about your edge, about your trading edge, you won't fear any losses, because losses are part of the game. Even if you have a strike rate of 80%, you can still get 5 L's, it's our probability. And in the end, the wins will overcome the losses as long as you're staying objective, and systematic in your trading. And if you get too much emotions, or if you are feeling that you are getting too emotional in the markets, I would just suggest step back of the markets, take a day off or a session off, and come back on the next day or next week with a fresh mind, a new plan, a tight plan. Write down some rules on some sticky notes on your screens or something, and get it going again. So yeah, that was it basically for this market recap. I hope you all will learn something from it again, and I will see everyone in the group again. Have a good evening.